All right, my Rainy Math 8 students, so here we go. So we're going to go ahead and do the 3-1 to 3-3 review. So let's get started. So for number one, make sure, once again, anytime you're solving equations, put the line going straight down the equal sign. For number one, you have x's on the left, x's on the right. Which one is smaller, 3x or 8x? 3x, so subtract 3x from both sides. When you do that, those go away, bring down a -7. 8x take away 3x gives you 5x, bring down your 23. We are trying to solve for the value of x, so we want to get rid of the 23. You do that by doing the opposite, which is called inverse operations. Those go away, you end up with a -30. Bring the 5x down, and once again, in order to get the x by itself, do the inverse operation. And -30 divided by 5 gives you a -6. So there's your answer for question number one. For number two, we have fractions, so you could do this one of two ways. You can take the fractions, divide them, turn them into decimals. Way I showed you guys how to do it is you take your two denominators, the 2 and the 4, and you're going to list the multiples of 2 and 4. So 2, 4, 6, 8. For 4 you do 4, 8, 12, 16. Common denominator here, or common multiple, is going to be 4. So on this side, let me draw my line first. We are going to multiply everything times 4. On this side, we're going to multiply everything times 4 to get rid of our denominators, or our fractions. So 4 times 1 is 4, divided by 2 gives you 2. 4 times 7 gives you 28. 4 times 3 gives you 12. 12 divided by 4 gives you a 3. And then 4 times 9 gives you 36. And then, just like number one, we're trying to solve for the value of p. There's 2 p's here, there's 3 p's here. Subtract the smaller of the p's, which is 2p. This goes away, you end up with 28. 3p take away 2p is just simply 1p. Bring down the 36. Then you're going to subtract both sides by 36. And in this case, you get a -6. My apologies. You get a -8 for this side. And then over here, you're just left with 1p, so call that just p. Okay? Oops. Alright, so let me scroll down. Alright, so for number 3, the same exact thing, except you're just dealing with decimals. So here's your line. So you have 0.10x, you have 0.44x. 0.10 is smaller, so subtract both sides by 0.10. Subtract both sides by 0.10. These go away, you're left with 0.55. 0.44 minus 0.10 gives you a 0.34. Bring down the 0.13. We are trying to get x by itself, so we are going to add 0.13 or 0.13 to both sides. When you do that, those go away. You're left with a 0.34x. This gives you a 0.68. Divide both sides by 0.34, 0.34, and you end up with simply 2. Tomorrow you will be expected to be able to read a word problem, and then you're going to have to write and solve an equation. So here we go. Container has 800 liters of water. So you can't change that. It has 800 liters of water. And it is being drained. Drain means that you're taking it away. You're taking away 6 liters per minute. And then we set that equal to the other container, which is 350 liters of water, and it is being filled, so we're filling it up, we're adding to it 2 liters per minute, and then they want to know after how many minutes will they have the same amount. So in this case, line going down, 2x is here, negative 6x is here, so we're going to add 6x to both sides, because a negative is always smaller than a positive. These go away. We are left with 8x. Bring everything else down. We have 800 here. And then we're going to subtract 350 from both sides. That does not look like a 3. 350 from both sides. Minus 350 from both sides. You cancel those out. This gives you, what is that, 450. And this side gives you 8x. Divide both sides by 8. And a lot of you guys were wondering if the answer was a decimal. And the answer is yes, this is a decimal. So if you do 450 divided by 8 on your calculators, you get a 56.25. And because we're talking about minutes, please make sure that you put minutes. So this is how long it will take for the 2 containers to have the same amount of water, 56.25 minutes. All right, for question number 5, it says a cellular phone provider has 2 choices of plans for customers. Plan A charges $7.95 for a flat fee plus $15 per gigabyte of data, while Plan 2 charges $11.95 plus $7 for data. For what number of gigabytes of data is the cost the same? So for the first one, they charge $7.95 plus $15 for every gigabyte of data, whereas Plan 2 charges $11.95 plus the $7 for data. So put our line going down. This is a 15, this is a 7. 7 is smaller. You do the opposite to get rid of it. In this case, we end up with 8 x's on this side. On the right side, that goes away. We bring down the $11.95. Over here, we bring down the $7.95. Okay? So then what you're going to end up doing is we are going to need to get rid of the $7.95 because it's on the same side as the variable, which is the x. So we're going to subtract $7.95. Oops, that does not look like a 5. Subtract $7.95. And on this side, we get an 8x. On this side, we get a 4. Divide by 8, divide by 8, and once again, you will be getting a decimal. It doesn't come out perfectly, so you get x is equal 0.5 or half, whichever one you want to do. And it says for what number of gigabytes of data is the cost the same? So x equals 0.5 gigabytes. So when you have used half a gigabyte, that's when the cost is the same for both cell phone companies. All right, so for number 6, once again, we have the line going down. The only difference is that here, you're going to have to do a few more steps because there's parentheses, right? So on the left side, there are no parentheses. On the right side, we have a 4. We are going to distribute. 4 times 5 makes 20. Bring down the minus sign. 4 times x gives you 4x. And then you simply write everything down on the left and right side that was not used. On the right side, you'll notice that you have a total of 3 terms. You have the 20, the negative 4x, the positive 2x. We are going to do what they call combining like terms, so we're going to combine these two. Negative 4x plus 2x gives you a negative 2x. And then once again, we just bring everything down that we did not use. Okay? And then from here, you simply look at your values of x. So this is a negative 10. This is a -2. Which one is smaller? The -10, because they're both negatives, but the bigger the number, the smaller it is. So in this case, we're going to add 10x. We are going to add 10x. So those go away. You're left with a -8. Still haven't done anything to that 20. And then -2 plus 10 gives you 8x. And then what we're going to do is we are going to subtract 20 from both sides. So we're going to do, so this gets circled, subtract 20, subtract 20. You get 8x is equal to -28. Divide by 8, divide by 8. And you get x equals, let me check my calculator here. We end up getting, so -28 divided by 8 gives you a -0.25. Okay. Actually, let me put it on this side so I don't have to erase. X equals -0.25. And that's my answer for that one. Let me erase this on this side. All right, so for number 7, once again, put our line going down the middle. You'll notice that we have decimals, but just treat them as if they were regular whole numbers. Number on the outside gets distributed to everything on the inside. 0.5 times 10 gives you a half of 10 gives you 5. Bring down the minus sign. And then half of 8 gives you your 4x. On this side, remember that there is an imaginary number outside of the parentheses. See how there is no number out here? So this is going to be a -1. So circle your -1, and then we distribute. Okay? So -1 times 5x gives you a -5x. -1 times 13 gives you a -13. We didn't do anything to the 11, so you just bring it straight down. You'll notice on the left-hand side we can't do anything. On the right-hand side we have 3 terms. We have an 11 and a -5x and a -13. So we're going to combine just the numbers. So 11 take away 13 gives you a -2. We got rid of that. We got rid of that. We still have the -5x. On the left side, again, didn't do anything. Rewrite it. Okay. So you have -4x's over here. You have -5x's over here. Which one's smaller? The -5 is smaller because since they're both negatives, the bigger the number in the negative means that it's smaller. So we are going to do the opposite, which means add 5x, add 5x. These go away. On the right side, you're left with just a -2. On the left side, we still have that 5, and then -4 plus 5x gives you a 1x. We're trying to get the x by itself, so we are going to subtract 5, subtract 5. We end up with 1x equals to -7. 1x is the same thing as x, so technically you could just erase the 1, and there's your answer for question number 7. And then last but not least, we have one that has fractions. So again, a few different ways of doing this. I personally just like to take the 1/5 and multiply it times everything, so I'll show you what that looks like. So this gets distributed, okay? 1 times 4 is 4, divided by 5 is 4/5, right? Some of you guys are going to be like, well, how is that? Well, if you take 4 and divide it by 5 on your calculator, you simply get 0.8x, okay? And then in this case, when you're doing the 1 times the 20, you get 20. Divided by 5, you get a 4, so that works out perfectly. And then we didn't do anything to the 3x, so you rewrite it. On the other side, you have a 6 on the outside. That gets distributed to everything on the inside. 6 times x is 6x. Bring down the minus sign. 6 times 3 makes 18. On the right side, you only have 2 terms. You can't combine those. On the left side, you do have 3 terms. We can combine these before doing anything. So 0.8 plus 3 gives you 3.8x. Bring down the 4 because you didn't do anything to it. And then once again, you just rewrite this part. We're trying to see which one has the least amount of x's. Over here you have 3.8. Over here you have 6. So I'm going to subtract 3.8x from both sides. As such, these go away. You're still left with that 4. 6 take away 3.8 gives you a 2.2x. You didn't do anything to the minus 18, so you just simply bring that one down. We are trying to get the 2.2x by itself. Get rid of the minus 18 by adding 18 to both sides. You end up with 22 equals 2.2x, because these go away on this side. Divide both sides by 2.2, 2.2. And when you do this on your calculator, because we are going to be using calculators, I don't need you to try to do this in your head, we end up getting the number 10. Alright guys, please make sure you guys study all these types of questions, okay? If there's one that you got stuck on, you're not quite sure about, please make sure that you go back over. I would take a scratch sheet of paper, write down just the question, and see if you are able to do it without looking at the answer or looking at the work that I just gave you, okay? The more you practice it, the better you're going to get. That is it for my video. Peace out. I will see you guys tomorrow. Adios.